Hello, welcome to the next episode of Just Peachy. My name is Peachy Thompson and I'm your host. Just Peachy is a show where I interview experts and leaders in the fields of finances, taxes, and insurance. We do have a lifestyle section where we talk about pretty much everything under the sun. And today's speaker is going to talk about innovation. I am so excited to introduce to you global innovation expert and award-winning entrepreneur, Miss SaraTrasca. Welcome, Sara. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good to be here, Peachy. Thank you again for having me.
Yes. So, Sara, I wanted to read your bio, but instead of reading your amazing bio, I want the readers to know who you are just by way of us talking about your experience and how you help global businesses in their business planning and innovation. So tell us, please, what led you to be interested in helping organizations and individuals building innovation or working on their innovation?
That's great. Yeah. I can talk a little bit about the history and where I've come from, because it definitely feeds into my passion now. So I started my career at General Mills. Wonderful company, beautiful brands, really helping them to drive growth, connect with consumers in an authentic way. I was able to work on the retail side a bit within a shopper marketing capacity. So I understand what it's like to be in a big company, right? But I also then started a business of my own. And those that are local will know Trasca and Company Eatery, hopefully. That's the restaurant that I opened about 7 years ago. And I'm carrying on my family's legacy with that restaurant. My grandmother started our restaurants back in 1974, and my parents continued it, as well as my aunts and uncles. And then now it's my cousins and I. So if you think about, I've had the big business experience. I've also had quite an enjoyable ride as an entrepreneur myself. And then I've helped a lot of other entrepreneurs to build, grow, and sell their businesses. So I have this kind of, I would say, understanding of both the big and the small and what is necessary for success. And one of those key components is the innovation, is this burning desire to find a new path forward, to compete in a new way, to drive growth by harnessing the power of creative problem solving. And so by that, I like to help organizations, teams, and certainly individuals to practice the process of coming up with new pathways, new ideas. How do you come at things with fresh eyes? How do you have tools in your toolkit that you can utilize when you come up with a challenge, when you've got a competitor that's giving you a hard time and you've got to find a new path?
Thank you, Sara. And I want to talk about Trasca and Eatery because I have been to your restaurant before I even knew who you are. And I have to say, the moment I walked in there, and if we have a lot of local viewers as well, so if you guys have not been there, you've got to check it out. It's on A1A. But the moment I walked in there, I knew that something was different about it. When I ordered my food, it was different. It's like a mix of how do I explain it? It's like it's not a sandwich. It's almost like a wrap, but it's crispy. So it wasn't something that and I looked at, and I'm a foodie. I love to cook. I love to bake, and I go to many restaurants as well. So that speaks to what you are doing just by example, your own business here locally in Ponte Vedra Beach. So just want to throw that out there that you have delicious food and the service is amazing. Everyone was very friendly. There's a table there that much. It's like a log. I think it's made out of, I believe it was locally made, if I'm not mistaken, or handmade by someone you probably already know. But
yeah. I did them.
You did that? Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
so
funny, Peachy. Yeah,
so
that's great.
Yeah, so they didn't tell us that, but I was inquiring about the table and I said, wow, okay, who did that? They didn't tell us that was you, but it's pretty cool.
Oh,
so
well, thank you again for the support. I mean, as a small business owner, I'm always thrilled that people enjoy their experience. And I would say the uniqueness is very, very purposeful. I mean, we want to be different than anything else at the beach. So maybe if I can talk about that just for a moment, I moved down here from Minnesota, and, in the Twin Cities, in, St. Paul, Minneapolis and Minnesota, there is phenomenal food. I mean, from all over the world, very, very rich food culture up there. And when we moved here from Minnesota, I was very disappointed in the food that was in Ponte Vedra Beach and kind of the surrounding area. I just felt like, there's amazing food like at Madure or at, there's amazing food, but it's not when you have small children, when you just need to stop in, you're popping in. And so I didn't want to have a pretentious place. I wanted people to come as they are, and be able to experience that type of foodie experience, but in their street clothes, coming out from a run, having their toddlers, or on a business lunch or on a date. So it hopefully has that vibe where, anyone that walks in the door is comfortable. And then, I would say we tried to really harken back to the roots of my family, which is Italian. So, my grandparents, had these wonderful recipes. So I'm very lucky that I've been able to serve their food, but we wanted it to be a vintage East Coast eatery, something that was warm and familiar, something that was, fun. But again, people can come as they are. We don't care if someone spills, if a toddler breaks something. I mean, it's comfortable. So hopefully you got that vibe.
Oh yeah, I did. That's why we were comfortable enough to ask about the tables and all kinds of other stuff that we ask your people in the restaurant. So awesome job. Really great job. I wanna, this is a great segue. So I saw that in your staff, in your restaurant. How do you help people become more adept at creative problem solving?
Yeah, well, the first thing that I try to do is to inspire them to see the potential when they open up their minds. Most working professionals that, are into their careers, that have, kind of started down the path in this professional line, somewhere along the path, they've had someone tell them, no, we don't do it that way, right? Or, oh, that's too expensive. Or, well, the way we do it here is X, Y, and Z. So they've had their creativity stifled. They've not been able to ask the types of questions that really bring forth new ideas. Even back in schooling, I mean, we have well-intentioned teachers that have said something like, you can't paint a giraffe purple. Giraffes aren't purple, so again, somewhere along the path, most of us have had that creativity stifled. But the true fact is that every single one of us has the creative potential. It's in our nature. As human beings, we are able to think about things in a new way. We are able to carve those new paths, but we have to practice it. Just like any other muscle, we have to practice it like as if we were trying to play soccer, right? You don't just go to the World Cup. You have to practice the skills over time. You can't just learn to play guitar overnight. You have to practice it over time. You can't just be creative overnight. What I get frustrated with oftentimes is someone will say, okay, let's go brainstorm an idea. Well, you haven't taught them the skills. You haven't practiced those skills of creativity over time in order to be able to rely on your team to come up with ideas, to understand how to bring forth, new twists, whether it's, just a tangent or whether it's transformational. So 2 things that I like to do to help people. The first of which is to inspire them. This is an important skill. This will help you to be competitive in your role, to be competitive as a business. So I try to explain the power of this creative potential. The second thing is that I try to give them very actionable, very simple tools. So I have a toolkit that I like to use of different methods of problem solving, different ways of being innovative, and they can practice those tools with me to understand them and then apply them later. So that's the way that I usually go about coaching my clients.
That's an excellent way of doing it. And I am a believer of practice makes perfect. And my daughter's a soccer player, and I know exactly what you say when you say you can't just go out there and kick the ball. I tried. I'm not a soccer player, and I tried. And I've seen her team do the same drills over and over again. And when those girls play, it's game time, and you see what they practice. It comes out, the hard work that they've done in the past 3 weeks leading up to the game. It comes out during the game. And it's not like someone who's also athletic, maybe who's playing basketball, can simply now go, okay, well, it's kind of the same idea. I'm playing basketball, I got to shoot it over there. It's very different. So
Absolutely.
that is a very, very good point and analogy. So Sara, tell me, in your experience, what do you think holds people back? What holds someone back from being innovative?
Yeah, I really find that, again, it's a creative confidence that folks are lacking. They don't want to break the mold. They don't want to come up with new ideas because they fear their peers. They fear blowback from their boss. So often we suggest something or we ask a question, and that, the tone is just an immediate shutdown. Mm-hmm. And so there has to be a creative confidence if you really do want to build this type of skill. I would say, if you have the intention to make waves, to really make change, to compete in a new way, you've got to be comfortable with failure. Honestly, I would say, there's pitfalls in this process. Some things will work and some things will not. And if it doesn't work, you've just leveraged the process of elimination. You're closer to your solution because you've eliminated those options. So if people have this type of confidence and they understand that failure is a part of the process, negative feedback, criticism is a part of this, then I think that they will be more willing to pick themselves back up when they have failed or, just had a misstep. So, I think, again, it can come from inside. It can also be a part of a team or whatever the organization is to kind of lift each other back up, right? We're linking arms. We know that this might not work, but we're going to keep picking each other back up as we try new things. So a lot of the kind of, I would say maybe psychological support system, the elements of kind of having that tenacity, having that grit, having that determination are what I like to coach folks through as they are beginning this process.
That is a very, very good point. What would you say to someone? I've worked and we have a lot of viewers who may have had their confidence shut down at one point in time, their career, outside of their career, by their friends, their family, their bosses. What would you say to someone who is wanting to be innovative and wanting to put themselves out there for the second time or the nth time, but is very fearful of, first off, rejection, right? Mm-hmm. And second, just failure. Let's say just a very bad experience in the past that this person is trying to get over. What would you say to that person? What can that person do just to get that start?
That's great. That's a great question. So there's some individual coaching, but then there's some bigger, broader cultural components that, if given the chance, I would love to work with the organization to change. Again, to have that safety net of failure is an option. Failure is a part of the process. And if we can come up with that culture, we can support the individuals. They will be more empowered to bring their best selves, their best ideas, their questions. So from an individual perspective, what I do with a lot of individuals is I'll do a little bit of storytelling. There are some amazing examples of everyday people like you and I. And I'm not bringing in stories of Elon Musk and Amazon and Tesla and Uber and things like that. I'm bringing in everyday stories of everyday innovators. And these stories are powerful. People that have dusted themselves off. They've battled through adversity. They have come up with ways, with their backs against the wall. And so sometimes, again, it's inspiration. You can do this too. And then examples, which again, I usually leverage this toolkit of, okay, well, let's try this. The last thing I was going to say is that, if folks are willing to be patient, sometimes there are some baby steps that can be made. So versus going from, the point in time where, it's 0 to 60.
Yeah.
What would it be like if we just take a couple baby steps or make a prototype or develop a business plan so that we can see what the outcome might be if we fail, what the outcome might be if we, generate a win. And so then they're able to influence their sphere to say, okay, what would make this better? How could we, get some other people on board so that we, lighten the load a little bit of the risk of failure. Now there's 5 of us involved instead of just the 1. So there are some components when I'm doing individual coaching to help people battle through those initial stages.
I love it. And I heard you say in the beginning, the culture is important. And really for an individual walking into a new company, or maybe just a company they've been working for in a long time, it is a huge difference when you feel safe in your element. And my experience tells me that leadership has a lot to do with that. So can you tell our viewers and our leaders, we have some leaders who are watching right now who have the power and the influence to really make a difference in everyday people's lives. And the one thing that I keep in mind as a leader is that I can make or break someone's day by my reaction. It's very simple. I can be welcoming as a leader, or I can be, just like your original example, I can shut someone down. And that I've seen that happen. It has a ripple effect throughout the company and outside of the company. Some of them bring it to their homes. They become cranky with their husbands, with their kids. So I want to speak to our leaders. And this is the question that I want to ask you is, why should people and leaders focus on building a positive disruption within their teams? And maybe we define that first for them. And what are the benefits of that?
Yes, this is a great question. And, I come at this from the perspective of the business will prosper. This will drive the results. This will drive growth, whether it's tomorrow or in 10 years. And there are a couple of components. First of all, any type of creative problem solving, any type of disruption, positive disruption that is fostered in an organization will allow the organization and the team to be more nimble, be more open to possibilities, probably more proactive on seeking opportunities that may lay in their industry or beyond. A lot of this is finding outside inspiration, finding things out there in the world. And I'm talking, let's just say you're in hospitality. Why not look at the, sports industry in the UK for, inspiration? I'm really and truly matching up industries all the time. What can this industry learn from this industry way across the world? So trying to find that outside inspiration, those outside ideas that can come in and cause that, possibly transformation in a business. So when you allow people to come as their best selves, I actually describe it as an energy crisis throughout the world. Too often, people come to work deflated, right? They're not coming as their best self. They're not coming knowing that their boss will listen to them or their colleagues will be open to new ideas. They are just kind of, going through the motions. They're not, really delivering their full potential. And that in itself is a reason. I mean, the retention alone, plus the fact that you'll have people that are empowered to lead and drive change and build pathways to new progress. It's interesting. There is a statistic that was done from the World Economic Forum that predicts, and this is actually a study that was done before COVID, but they predict that by the year 2030, something to it's 80 million jobs in the US will be disrupted by automation. So literally eliminated, disrupted in a negative way, right? Because we've got automation coming in, AI, we have all sorts of things that will transform the global, workforce. The one thing that cannot be replaced is our creative problem solving. It's having a human think about things in a new way. And so as an employee, we need to harness that. As an employer, we need to have an army of employees that feel passionate about what they're doing, that are excited to bring new life, new ideas, to challenge the status quo, to drive growth through new possibilities. So I think the possibilities are endless. I've named a couple, but hopefully that answers your question.
Yes. And it's interesting how you mentioned that. I know by experience that a lot of people, so I'm in the insurance industry, and COVID-19 has really brought about the disruption that the industry needed. Prior to the pandemic, we are mostly pen and paper industry. We're so behind in technology. There's maybe a couple of carriers that actually did what they're supposed to do and allowed people to buy insurance electronically. But fast forward a year later, here we are. The industry was disrupted big time overnight. Things that was supposed to happen 10 years ago finally happened, and people are there's what we call an underwriting process that actually allows people to go through the vetting process of the insurance company. That usually takes a long time. Now we could get someone done within 30 minutes to an hour, and that's unheard of. Now, with that, there's a lot of people that feared for their jobs. And exactly what you said, Sara, is that what I would always say to those employees is we cannot replace the thinking, creative part of the business. So right. I would not worry about your job, because we can automate all the processes however we want to, but you've got to have that mindset of, I am a human being who's creative and can do this.
That's great.
So that is that speaks to a lot of our listeners. I believe that's probably wondering, what innovation means to them as a regular person. They're sitting in their living room listening to us, or driving in the car going to work, wondering, will I have a job tomorrow, because there's so much automation, so much innovation that is happening right now. Mm-hmm. So that said, what can people do? What's the first step would you recommend for them to do to build innovation in their world, especially if they're fearful of innovation?
Mm-hmm. Well, I usually suggest that people take baby steps. I'll use the analogy of, working out. If you're hoping to have weight loss, or you're hoping to build your muscles, you've got to take small steps, and over time, it will add up to big change. So in this kind of process of learning how to be more innovative, more creative, I usually challenge folks to come up with one way that they can positively disrupt their world. And I usually give them about a 7-day challenge. Think of one thing you can do. Don't worry about funding it. Don't worry even about executing it at this point. Just to come up with the idea. And what happens is they'll usually start to come up with multiple ideas, right? And so this starts the momentum towards thinking about, well, gosh, I could do things this way. Or if I was going to fix this, how would I approach it? Mm-hmm. And that'll start, again, the idea process. Ideas I have found are contagious. One idea leads to 7 leads to 20 ideas. And this new creative vibe spills over into everything they're doing at home, with their colleagues, with their families. And so I usually will say, just take baby steps. Think about something you might change, in your process, in the way that you lead your meetings, in the way that you communicate with your team. Innovation does not have to be massive, right? It can be micro innovations in our daily lives. And if we start to make those daily life, minor changes, it can lead to very big transformational growth.
Yeah, so now what you just told me is I can't do what I normally would do. I would go 0 to 60. So today I'm not riding my bike for like 3 months. And then on the third month, I'm going to go ahead and ride my bike and do 30 miles. And then I'm going to crash for about a day and a half or two. So not necessary. Can't do it. Don't do it. So can you give us an example, or maybe some examples? I know you must have a lot of an innovation that you're proud of. And I'm so excited to hear what this is.
Thank you, Peachie. Yeah, I would say the example that comes to mind first that I'll share is the restaurant. I mean, Trasca. So during COVID, we obviously were faced with enormous challenges, just like every other restaurant and most small businesses in the world. Yeah. We certainly weren't alone, but we had to change our business model almost every week. And, folks will probably remember we were learning new things about this virus. We were, at first needing to disinfect things. Then it was like, well, it's only airborne. It doesn't sit on surface. Okay, great. So we had to change things every single week. And when we recognized that people weren't leaving their homes anymore, this is before the stay-at-home mandates, but we really had to think through, well, if people aren't coming to us, how do we get to them? And so we started, honestly, building our neighborhood event program, which sustained us through COVID. And boy, I'm I kind of get goosebumps here. So many people said that, we were just a joy, because we would drop off meals in their neighborhood during COVID and they couldn't even, they weren't leaving. And so to have a hot meal prepared, from a favorite restaurant was just, the highlight of their week, things like that. So really, really special. But we also started partnering with the hospitals in the area, the Mayo Clinic and some of the others, because the first responders were desperate for food, right? I mean, they were working around the clock. It was grueling for them, especially at the beginning. And so we had private donations pouring in so that people could support the first responders that were getting us through this crisis. So we became the food outlet to prepare the meals in a food safe way that people were able to give. Because again, I'll give another example. If someone wanted to bake cookies, they couldn't just bake cookies in their home. We didn't know how the virus was spread at that point. So they couldn't just drop off cookies to the fire hall because the fire hall would just throw them in the garbage at that point because they were nervous about how was COVID spread. But we were able to get, private donations. We would create everything and make it, seal it. Again, at that time, it was really, really specific. And then deliver it to the hospital, to the police stations, et cetera. So that became a way for us to, continue to sustain through COVID. And I mean, it is a miracle that we survived. I will tell you that through the process of being good creative problem solvers, we not only survived, but we have thrived. Our team is better coming out of COVID than we were going in. And it's a testament to the process, but it's also a testament to the people. I have some really amazing folks on my team that are not willing to let us fail. And they said, we're just going to, I kind of remember those days of even the brainstorming that happened. Well, what if we did this? Ooh, and what about this? I mean, my team was collaborating. It wasn't me. It was them building these ideas, helping to find new pathways. And not all of them worked. Again, remember I said that creative confidence. Well, let's just try it. Let's see how it goes. And if it didn't work, what if we customized it? What if we changed it to this? And anyway, my point is we never let anyone go. We never laid anyone off. My folks have been amazingly loyal to me. I've been hopefully loyal to them in return, and we made it. So that's my story.
I love your story. Talking about positive disruption, right? In the middle of a pandemic, nobody, like you mentioned, nobody knew what was going on really. And a lot of our local restaurants, businesses were really having a rough time, especially the past year, especially in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you guys were able to come together as a team and brainstorm, come up with ideas, and actually execute while a global pandemic was happening, and it clearly saved your business, right? It's really a testament to how innovation can help bring you from point A to point B in the middle of pandemic. So that's a very that's an inspiring story. And I hope that a lot of our listeners and viewers who's watching us here learn from this. I know I'm learning. I'm sure they are going to be learning some stuff here. So Sara, if any of our viewers or listeners want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Mm-hmm. It's a great question. So they are certainly welcome to come to Trasca. I'm there quite often. But there. Also, yeah, good. And, I do a lot of, as I mentioned, a lot of travel around the world, helping organizations to build innovation. So if they don't catch me at the restaurant, I have a website, SaraTrasca.com. So they're welcome to check me out there. My cell phone is published as well. So, I would say any form of communication, folks can text me, call me, they can email me, Sara@SaraTrasca.com, and it's SARA, SaraTrasca.com. So I would love to help. I mean, I would say, even if it's just a quick conversation of getting folks, kind of pointed in the right direction, or if they need, a workshop, if they need, an inspirational speech for their team, I'm happy to help. I think it's been a real pleasure for me to see what happens when people fully embrace this type of creative problem solving. I've also had the chance to see what happens when folks don't. And I would say finding a path that allows for open dialogue, creativity, innovation is the way to be. So I truly, anyone that needs help, I welcome the questions.
Thank you again, Sara. I appreciate your time, and I'm excited to share this with all our viewers and our listeners. And I look forward to the next time we connect.
Me too, Peachie. As always, it's just lovely to see you. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
You too. My pleasure. So let me do. Information shared during the show are opinions of the speakers. They are not legal, financial, or tax advice specific to you. Consult your own specialist, attorney, accountant, financial planner, or insurance advisor for your specific situation.